Good morning. I'm Pat Ryan, the Executive Director for the Power and Energy Society.
So,
Hi.
wait a minute. So why are you here?
I am here to represent PES kind of from a business standpoint, if you will, to help the committee do what they would like to charter to do. So I'm here also to learn more about the efforts here in Africa in general. So I'm excited to be here.
At what level is your interest in personally beyond the job that you obviously have to do?
From a personal standpoint,
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about rural electrification and bringing power to those who don't have it, as well as the power and energy industry in general, from modernization to sharing the benefits around the world that we have in different parts of the world. So I'm very passionate about that.
So we gave a lot of time to this so people can actually say something about themselves and why they're here.
Okay, so we want to do, okay,
Yeah, I
so,
gave you that first section. It's not like half an hour. You don't have to use it. Just,
okay, well, did you want to, we didn't really,
About yourself.
did you talk about the workshop goals and all that? Do you want to talk a little bit about that before we go around and people talk about why they're here?
I would like to say something more about that at the beginning of my session.
Okay, all right. All right, well, we're going to go around and do a little more extensive, so we've got some time to go through, as Ray asked Pat, some of the things about kind of your name, where you're from, your organization, and then, you know, why you're here, and what maybe a little bit on what you hope to gain through attending today. So, if that sounds okay? So, go ahead.
Okay, Patrick Lee. I'm actually an IEEE member for more than 25 years. So I've been a member of PES for 25 years. I professionally work for an electric company in San Diego, under Central Energy called SDG, San Diego Gas and Electric. I'm a power engineer by training, both my bachelor's and master's in power engineering. I have a lot of passion in terms of using my knowledge to help eliminate energy poverty as much as we can. So I think I can offer some of my experience in terms of both engineering and management and leadership in project management and business strategies to help maybe expand the program as quick as we can to achieve our goals faster than maybe more of a technical perspective than a business perspective that I think I can add. That's why I'm here, to learn as much as I can and try to get up to speed to help Ray out and others that are passionate about the initiative.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Yvonne Kalakala. I officially work for Eskom. That's the only power utility in South Africa. Right now, I'm busy with my master's at WITS. So I'm attending the conference as a master's student at WITS. But my professional basis is with Eskom. I work at one of the power stations about 100 km out of Joburg. My personal interest is rural electrification and renewables. It's something that I've always been interested in since I was involved as part of my student vacation project. I was involved in a rural electrification project in Limpopo, which is north of South Africa. It is one of the more rural areas of South Africa. And I thought, come here and see what CSI is about and what you guys have to offer.
Guess I'll go. My name is Peter Danhauer. I'm working at the University of Strathclyde, which is in Glasgow, Scotland, but I'm based out of Seattle currently. I've been involved with several CSI projects, the wind turbine project. I've been working with Robin Podmore with the light cycle and light sticks. and trying to start up some more franchises with solar trailers in Africa. I currently am also working on a project in Malawi that's called MREAP. It's funded by the Scottish government, and I will be using that as the basis for a PhD. My focus is primarily in economic systems, and I find this a very interesting and worthwhile use of my time to study economics, so that's why I'm doing this.
I'm just taking some notes here. So I'm not sending emails or anything.
We have that on tape now, so.
Yeah, you can see that.
Updating your Facebook.
Shall we come back, or?
No, I'm ready. So I'm Henry Louie. I teach at Seattle University. I've been involved. I got involved with CSI because Robin Podmore asked me to, and I didn't know any better. I didn't know I was interested in rural electrification or energy poverty until I started working with Robin, and then I found it to be a very, very interesting challenge. I am at a Jesuit university. It fits in with the mission of social justice, and once I started doing it, getting involved with wind turbine projects and things like that, it was a nice fit. And aside from the alleviation of energy poverty, one of the other things that I'm really interested and passionate about is teaching a generation of engineers in the U.S. to consider these other countries and other people as consumers and try to come up with products and services that fundamentally help them. A lot of our students, they want to go work for Apple or Google, etc. They don't think about the impacts that they can have on humanity if they were to maybe take their talents and work for low-cost energy solutions or water pumps and things like that. So aside from the technological and the business solutions on the ground, I'm interested in just getting engineering talents focused on solving these problems. So that's me.
Hello everyone, my name is Mawini. I am from South Sudan, but I've sort of been in the U.S. for a while, for 12 years actually. I went to University of San Diego there. And I majored in electrical engineering and just graduated last year in December. I got involved with CSI because I met Robin in Seattle last November in a conference actually, where I was presenting a project I was doing at USC. It was a solar project to electrify a school in South Sudan. So after that, I got really interested in in expanding that in South Sudan to just make that a model for schools, clinics, and also things. So Robin emailed me this summer and said we are doing this. So and if you're interested to be a potential partner, that would be great. So yeah, that's why so then I thought that that would be a really great opportunity to do what I was already interested in. And yeah, so I think it was really it was something he brought. I mean, it's just support that he brought on that I was already interested in.
So are you, what's the official connection with VHSS?
My official connection is actually the school that I'm electrifying, with the project that I will do at USD. The school actually falls under VHSS. So that's my official connection.
So you're going to give a talk about this later.
Right.
Good morning, I'm Ron Moulton. I'm co-founder of VHSS, which is Village Help for South Sudan. Our mission is basically to reach out to the rural, kind of neglected or underserved communities of South Sudan. South Sudan in general is, one of the poorest nations in the country, but the rural populations of South Sudan are very much at the extreme base of the pyramid in terms of access to services and so on. So Village Help for South Sudan seeks to reach out to those communities that some of the larger NGOs are not very effective in reaching. And the way we do that is by launching projects with members of the diaspora in the US who have a passion and desire to do a project and work within the community that they're from. So that's our connection from people like me in the US who doesn't have a personal relationship with the villages we serve, but by working with a number of the diaspora, such as Mo, it enables us to reach remote areas, both in terms of kind of the literal interpretation of reaching these villages, which are extremely remote, as well as helping us build partnerships with the communities. We don't actually do the work, that is, people like me on the board and who founded the organization don't actually do the work in South Sudan ourselves, but through the members of the diaspora, we enable the villagers themselves to do their own development work. So that's kind of our basic approach and philosophy. And increasingly over the past few years, I personally have become interested in how sort of private sector development and how to partner the work and mission of NGOs and nonprofits with enterprise development. And so this, when Mo started working with us on the project in his village, and we became interested in developing some sort of energy company or for-profit enterprise in South Sudan. It was around that time that we heard about CSI and the solution in Haiti, and it seems like it just is a natural fit. And so,
So we're going to South Sudan next, kind of what you're saying.
Exactly. And so I'm just, so thrilled to be here and to learn as much as possible about how others are reaching out to remote, impoverished communities with appropriate services and delivery of something as basic and fundamental as energy. I will also say that I am a project and program manager by profession, so I haven't always been in nonprofit management. This is sort of my encore career. So as I worked for many years in kind of corporate consulting, business and technology consulting, business applications, software applications, and so on. And so I've also co-founded an organization, it's very at the beginning stages, called Project Managers for Good, where I'm attempting to bring credentialed and experienced project managers from the corporate world and give them connections and the ability to volunteer with organizations and communities that need the skills of project management and the discipline of project management, but may not have access to it. So I'm hoping to somehow integrate into the work that we do in South Sudan the addition of additional resources that are lacking, just to kind of, not the technical resources so much as just business management and project management. And then I'm also forming a trade work association called SAFTA, South Sudan American Friendship and Trade Association. And the mission of that is a membership organization of companies and people in the US who would like to partner with new and possibly in some cases existing companies in South Sudan that are owned and operated by South Sudanese as a way of building up the private sector in South Sudan. So there are so many things that for us are coming together, and I think the opportunity to be here and to work on the energy needs and through partnerships like I've described, as well as through partnering with organizations like IEEE. And so I feel, extremely grateful to have this opportunity. Just very eager to be here and learn and collaborate.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Ifeanyi Orajaka. I'm from Nigeria. Professionally, I'm a graduate intern with Mobile Producing Nigeria. I'm upstream subsidiary of the ExxonMobil Corporation. I got involved with the CSI just after a project entry emerged a winner as an outstanding student humanitarian. That was the project Spread the Light. And then I was prompted to opt into joining the Humanitarian Technology Network. And afterwards I got involved with the CSI. And being a member, I have benefited a lot professionally and technically in getting to know a little more, and seeing the passion of everybody in the forum has really motivated me a lot into working towards advancing the project idea into getting the real people in the community to actually benefit from the project idea. And afterward, after a while, we applied to the IEEE Foundation partnership, which was approved, and most recently we got a partnership with the UNDP and Bank of Industry Nigeria access to renewable energy project. And that, to an extent, shifted us a little from our humanitarian NGO and like a humanitarian standpoint into moving the project to another level of forming a social enterprise to enhance the reach of the project to other remote settlements. And also by the partnership we got involved with the River State Sustainable Development Agency, which is an agency formed by one of the states in Nigeria, River State. And by the partnership, they have like light agro-based industries in very remote settlements in the state, and also the inhabitants of those settlements do not have access to electricity. So we kind of working towards a signage whereby provide electricity to power those agro-allied industries, and also to provide electricity to the inhabitants of the settlement within this Sierra Leone Haiti model. And also in recent times, we just started our pilot project, which is holding one of the remote communities in River State. We started last month, and we are still trying to reach a win-win situation with all the stakeholders involved. And hopefully by September, the project implementation proper will kick off. I believe we've benefited a lot from Sierra Leone Haiti, the technical advices, and also the business development, which helped us to get a partnership with the UNDP and the Bank of Industry. And from being here, I believe we get to meet everybody here on a one-on-one basis, and also to work towards a possible collaboration on how to extend the project to other settlements in Nigeria. Because with the UNDP partnership, we're kind of looking at a 5-year plan, whereby by the end of the 5 years, about 25 other communities will come on board to the rural education program. Thank you.
My name is Michelle LaCourciere. We founded both Serona Cares Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit in America that worked in Haiti, and then have recently registered Serona Haiti, the for-profit entity, to run the Sunblazer Project. We've known Ray and Albie for years, and about a year after I had been working in Haiti, Ray and I started talking about what the actual needs on the ground were, and in terms of energy. And he was passionate about expanding energy where we were, and we needed an appropriate solution. And we've been working with Ray and the IEEE and CSI from the beginning to design something that fit the needs of the people. And I would say what my passion is actually being the connector between what people who have extreme needs are, to explain and translate that to the people who can bring the solutions to those needs, and then to the funding organizations, the government, pulling all of those parts together. I'm sort of the central hub, and I love that place that I am in, because I don't understand the technical aspects of what I do. but I do understand the impact that it's having, and, you know, anything that needs refinement, bring those notes back. It's been an amazing adventure to light up 240 homes and 2,000 by the end of the year. It's wonderful to be building those types of relationships, and we've done so well with what we did in Haiti. I think we have a really strong model for expanding that in other areas, and we really are excited to be here talking to people in Africa who are, you know, I'm working with this end of the spectrum, and you know, it's connecting this to the villages is what I'm going to do. So it's very exciting to be here.
My name's Paul LaCourciere. I'm the CEO for Serona Fuels. I run a biodiesel plant in Oakland, California. I'm also the COO for Serona Haiti, which we just formed, and the program director for the electricity project at Serona Cares. I've been in the energy industry since 1990. Spent over 10 years as a lawyer working specifically on energy transactions and business development sides of it, as well as financial transactions, and assisting clients with developing the economics around their business model. I've held the dream of building sustainable infrastructure in developing countries. I've held that dream for about as long as a man can hold a dream. The opportunity 4 years ago to depart from a law practice to pursue this work between the biofuel company and the Haiti work was a core part of my being. And so to be here and to be pursuing this and be partnered with Ray and the CSI and all the help we've received from the IEEE is a tremendous, tremendous blessing to us. We really appreciate everything that's been done. The vision that we share with Ray and the CSI and the IEEE is the concept of, you know, bringing the sustainable energy business models to places like South Sudan, places like Nigeria, places like Haiti, where you can actually get people started. You know, you provide that seed funding, you provide that training, and then you let it go, and they build on their own. And we just have an enormous amount of passion for this, for that mission, and an enormous amount of faith in the people. You know, the power of people, entrepreneurs, very smart people, very motivated people, to earn a living, to feed their families, and have dignity in what they're doing. So that's where my passion comes from, and we're thrilled to be here and the opportunity to present this with y'all.
You're gonna have to move that again.
Just a little bit.
My journey with CSI started 28 years ago when I had coffee with Ray Larson. And he didn't know what CSI was at that point, and we didn't actually talk about CSI, but we were talking about China. He had just come back, and I was moving from Palo Alto in a law practice to start work in China. And for me, that was the point of disengagement from, I think, a very privileged, highly educated North American existence to a very passionate, engaged, relational venture with people in developing countries who have just as much of a dream and skill set and hope for a better future as anything I had ever experienced as a young man growing up in North America. So China was transformational for me, and I stepped aside from law and went into theological studies, and from there my wife and I were invited to Vietnam. We were the first Americans to have visas to live and work in Vietnam after the war years. That became transformational because it wasn't just working with people in the developing context, but people with incredible pride and skill sets in a developing context after living through 6 wars in a row. So even after all those trials and triage, people still have immense hope for a better future. The experience in Vietnam then sort of crafted my academic career, which has been teaching ever since in the fields of human rights and sustainable development. So, like Henry. I'm a professor on a Jesuit university. Mine is in Denver, Regis University. And my current work as a prof is to spend about half my time on campus and half my time with non-governmental organizations and other entrepreneurs, connecting these very different, though quite similar parts of the world. Post-industrial people in North America, students in North America, with people elsewhere with very strong aspirations for a better future. So I guess that long prelude leads to more recent conversations with Ray on CSI and PES. I'm avowedly not an engineer, but I do try very, very hard to listen and learn from people who are trained in a very different way than I, as engineers, are. And I hope that my words are understood by engineers, because they've been taught differently than I. So great to be here. Thank you, CSI and PES.
Now, I want to know why you've been doing such a great job in recording all of us, but when you spoke,
it wasn't
you
there.
didn't have the camera on yourself. Anyway, I'm Mike Wilson. I'm delighted to be here, and
That's the privilege of being the cameraman.
it is very much so. And it sounds like we've got a little corner over here of the non-engineer group. In this area. Also, kind of like the second career or third career, or moving on to something different in our lives, and I'm part of it as well. I have a 30-year history of doing business in China, and is primarily in the entertainment industry, which is about as far as you can get from engineering and science and all. I did a lot of work with Chinese acrobats, which you go, how does that relate to what we're doing in Africa and sustainable development? But I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Nebo over here several years ago, and he has an organization that primarily works in Cameroon, Africa, to foster sustainable development. It's a faith-based organization, and we have a large community of folks that we work with. We call them torches. They're spread throughout Cameroon. And so I'm working to apply my knowledge in international business and my awareness of how development happened in China over a 30-year span, and try and take some of those lessons and apply them to what we're all trying to do here with creating sustainable models to help improve the lives of the folks in the rural communities in Africa. So we have a variety of projects that are micro businesses that have to do with how folks can learn to raise chickens and pigs. But another component of that is also bringing electricity to rural communities through solar power. And that's where I'm trying to take my experience as your attorneys, take your knowledge and background in business, and trying to fit it together with what these folks are trying to achieve in their communities, and try and bring resources from the bigger world into the smaller communities, and see if we can't help them bootstrap and get something going so they can have a better life.
Good. My name is Martin Nebo, and I'm going to give us some cards there as a visual reminder. I'm African. I was born in Cameroon, and born into abject poverty, poverty like I think few people have known. And so I escaped to the United States, hoping to run away from that poverty. And after a time in the United States, when we had our first daughter, I was sitting and watching news. And so we would watch news from different parts of the world, and it seemed like almost every time news came from Africa, I couldn't bear to have my one-year-old daughter at the time look at the television screen. And so it started to bother me, because I could see that I was protecting my daughter from something that was happening back in my homeland. And I just wondered what was happening to those kids who were experiencing what I was preventing my daughter from watching. Things started to happen in my own thinking. I had gone to the United States hoping to end up either with the United States Nuclear Regulatory Commission or to end up with the United Nations nuclear program, which is my passion. And so just when I was about to start making these moves, the burden for Africa overtook my life. And so I first thought I could fit that into my nuclear physics career. I'm sorry to report that that wasn't very successful. Because you know, when you work in this expensive industry, you typically work as a group of people. And you just can't tell your group, hey, you guys keep working, I'm taking off to Africa for a month.
Ray does it all the time.
I don't know how he does it. I tried to do it and it just didn't work for me. And so I ended up having to retire from nuclear physics and I took up teaching at the university. And they were a little bit more open at the university, letting me take off during the summers and travel to Africa. But the work we started in Cameroon continued to grow. And I found that I needed to be in Africa a few more times than summer would allow. And so last May, I again retired from teaching at the university. Despite the few years of teaching there, the university was gracious enough to give me the Professor Emeritus of Physics and Mathematics, which I was very thankful for. But what has happened in the course of my life is that the challenges of Africa have completely disrupted everything I planned for myself. But I'm happier for that, despite the challenges of working here in Africa. And so basically, what started to bother me was the fact that there was a whole lot of activity about Africa. There was a whole lot of talk too about Africa. But the people at the grassroots, the people, my grandmother, for example, wasn't being impacted by all of that. Sometimes I was bothered not just by the fact that there was talk in the United Nations and there was talk by African governments. Sometimes there was even talk in the church about what was going on in Africa. And I could see that my grandfather and my grandmother in the village was not being impacted by what was going on. And so we decided that rather than curse the darkness, we might as well light a torch, as we call it today. And so for the last 10 years, I have been spending time in Cameroon, mobilizing at the grassroots. My passion is that in more and more places like these, when we sit to talk about Africa, that there will be a whole lot more Africans present than are here now. And so I am anxious to talk to you about just what we do to mobilize the Africans in the diaspora to help with the transformation work here in the continent. And so the work that we have been doing in Cameroon, which Mike has alluded to, which I may have some more opportunity to share more extensively about it, arises from that personal conviction that it takes Africans, that it will take Africans to lead the way to a significant transformation in Africa. Not because Africans are self-centered, but because it's not happened differently anywhere else in the world. If we as Africans are going to sit and expect non-Africans to come in here and make change here, it's not going to happen. And so I have a passion not only for the grassroots, but to reach out to quote-unquote successful Africans like me across the world, and even here on the continent, and say, we've been blessed with this talent, we've been blessed with these resources. How is it that our grandparents in the villages are benefiting from that blessing? And so that's what the Torchbearer Foundation is loosely defined about, and we hope to see that happen sooner rather than later.
Before I say anything, I want to introduce Ellie and have her say something about her long-suffering experience. About the last 16 years.
Yes, well, I'm Albie Larson, Ray's wife. I'm the retired Deputy Director of Technology and Engineering at the MIT Plasma Fusion Center. After that, I spent 10 years at SLAC working as an assistant to the head of the Linear Collider project, and then as a special assistant in the director's office at SLAC. I have a lot of experience in writing for very senior people, the president of Stanford, the president of MIT, the Department of Energy. I spent many years as the MIT liaison for our international programs with the Department of Energy. I come from the Nuclear and Plasma Sciences Society of the IEEE and have been working with Ray to provide funding from NPSS to support the work of CSI. I've also been trying to do some of the work to publicize CSI, so that's one of the reasons we had posters. I had banners and brochures because it was actually NPSS that originally said that they would do this, and then I asked if PES was interested in also participating and having some brochures, so they agreed that they would like to participate. And I think I come from a long, strong Christian background, and one of the things our church has been very active in is supporting Millennium Development Goals, and I view CSI as part of the move toward reaching those Millennium Development Goals. So that's all I have to
So say a word about your other full-time job though in the church.
Oh, yes, I also volunteer. I have roles in both our local church and in our national church. One of the little tiny things we do is we make dresses for Haiti, for the orphanages and schools, which Michelle then takes and distributes.
And she's too modest also, she said she comes from the NPSS, she runs the NPSS. Secretary for, a newsletter editor for how many years?
16 years as secretary, and I don't know how many years as newsletter editor, 8 or 9. I also was in the Magnetic Society, and I am one of the members of Women in Engineering. That's enough.
Am I next or you're next? I'm next.
Whoever wants it more.
Move over there so you have to.
No.
So, good morning, I'm Noel Schultz, and I'm a faculty member at Kansas State University, and I also have the opportunity to be IEEE Power and Energy Society president for 2012 and 2013. And I first got involved, I had some interest in, was very active in the Baptist Student Union, and went on several mission trips to work with parts within the U.S. to try to help with folks, and have had a passion to try to have an opportunity to do rural electrification or mission type things over the years, and with my husband that I met through the Baptist Student Union. But and so got more involved in engineering, and had the opportunity to meet Robin Podmore at, I think it was in Calgary, wasn't it, Henry? Mm-hmm. In Calgary, and start to learn about CSI and some of the activities there. And then in Minneapolis, visited with Ray and Robin, who were very passionate and rubs off on all of us in a very positive way. And so have been kind of peripherally involved in watching and I'll talk a little more in my presentation about how PES has kind of gotten involved and where we see some of the things going, and then what we hope to accomplish. But I think for me, it's a personal passion to see how we can do this as an organization, but also personal impact. And I think it's also a passion of PES is, and we'll talk about the betterment of humanity, is how do we take what we're doing and also be able to share it with others. And I think we're moving into an environment where microgrids are cool, so it's an even better opportunity, and there's a lot more work, technical work that we can then leverage in some of these rural developments. So very excited to have everyone here and have an opportunity to learn more and about all the different projects and how we can involve engineers and also our organization to help in those efforts. So I think that's all said now. Do I have any other questions I missed, Ray?
I don't think so. Well, I'm Ray Larson. I don't quite know where to begin because we're riding a tiger and it's hard to think about the past and the future at the same time, but it's been a remarkable coming together, I think, of this group. And I don't think I had a whole lot to do with it. It was there. So Dan mentioned some ancient history, which is quite fascinating, I think, and I think my wife and I did the charge to the candidate at Dan's ordination as a minister in the Presbyterian Church. So I think I went home and said to my wife, I think the young guy's going to change the world. So he's going to have a pretty good start.
Got a good mentor.
So I'm way beyond my retirement years, but I'm still working full time because I don't know how to stop. The platform of having a job and a fairly prestigious location, I think, carries a lot of weight with getting stuff done, so I don't want to just ditch it. And I don't get any brownie points for this at work at all. I get sideways glances like, hey, that's his thing, let him do it. But I sensed, since picking up first Jeffrey Sachs's book, and then Dan gave me a copy a year or two later when Paul Pollack's book came out about the end of poverty and working out of poverty. That to me was a real epiphany of hope that was understandable and rational and doable. I think that the outgrowth of that was the Millennium Development Goal program of the church. I'm not sure how they worked together, but they came out very much in sync. And I know Sachs and company had a great deal to do with that, convincing world leaders that this was possible. So that's a great start, but my problem with it is there's a lot of obstacles and controversy to the MDGs working the way they're designed, because a lot of it is very big government programs, and I understand the need for that aspect to be pushed. But on the other hand, we have Mr. Pollack saying, yeah, but it doesn't work. It's a history of misuse of funding and wasted effort and loss of opportunity because it doesn't work. So what's missing? And what's missing in Pollack's mind is what exactly you people are doing at the ground level. That's what's missing. So, and then I looked at that and I said, okay, but now there's all this charitable effort going on and it has no continuity and it's very small in terms of changing the economics of the country or even of a community. So how do we do that? So I see opportunity to do that. But I don't think it's been done yet anywhere. should say, God will do it. We are the passengers on the Tiger, and we're going to enjoy the ride.
There's a ancient proverb, Ray, in Vietnamese, when riding the tail of the tiger, don't let go. Because you're either going to get mauled or left in the dust.
Don't let go.
So just don't let go.
If I can just say too, no, and the IEEE has been this enormous factor behind all this stuff. And watching Ray, both Ray and Albie personally understated their role in this, Science of God's role. That, you know, Ray, I've been with Ray when he met with Shell several years ago, but the two of them have been this driving force of galvanizing people within what was originally the Humanitarian Technology Challenge, bringing it, forming, you know, with a lot of help from the IEEE, an incredible amount of cooperation, because a lot of things Ray said, the existing structures don't work. And Ray and Albie, Pat, and an enormous group within the IEEE actually said, we're going to change how we work in order to do this. And you've just been, as a group, phenomenal. And Ray and Albie, you deserve incredible kudos for just the galvanization you brought to this and wanted to spring this in. NPSS, for me, has sort of been like the Nuclear Plasma Sciences Society. You're like, how far away are they from the solar rule electrification? but that's the passion that they bring to this. So really, I just think an enormous amount of kudos needs to go to you guys and to the IEEE for everything you've done.
Well, I was going to build you a nuclear power plant.
Actually, let me tell a quick story here. When I was trying to start this Tojwara Foundation, someone advised me to talk to somebody in Canada. And so, unfortunately, he didn't give a proper introduction. And so, he told this person that Dr. Nebo will be calling you, and he is interested in working with pastors in villages in Africa to figure out just how we could do holistic Christian community development. And so, this guy in Canada had his idea about what my background was. And so I called him, and we were talking, and we had a great conversation. And somewhere in the middle of that conversation, he asked me, where did you get your PhD? So he was expecting that I was going to say some theological seminary. And so I gave him the name of this secular university. And then he was quiet for a moment and said, what's your PhD in? And I said, he thought maybe it was divinity in some secular university. I said, nuclear physics. And here was his question to me next. How are you, as a nuclear physicist, going to be able to relate to poor pastors in African villages? And so I share that to make the connection with you. People don't think that those two relate, but they do relate because they have humanity in common. And more to your point, we have God in common. Yeah. And He unites us despite our different backgrounds.
Well, about 25 years ago, I always liked to prod the pastors with the tough questions about what the church is doing. And the corporate church in the U.S. is kind of an out to lunch about a lot of human rights issues, and the more conservative the church, which I happen to, the poorer their record. So I always challenged the pastors about this, and I wrote them notes. And I got a lot of, I actually got some responses, but mostly stony silence after a while. I got tired of me writing, but one of my notes was, I called it alter ego. That somewhere in the world is a person just like me, but on the other side. And it's in one of these villages we're talking about. And that person is, could have been me. And by some accident of birth, it wasn't me, it was this poor, deprived person I'm looking at, and I said, this is not right.